Ever spent months optimizing your work setup only to be forced to ditch it? That's exactly what happened to me when my Linux distribution finally reached end of life after a full year of daily use. In this video, I'm going to pull back the curtains and show you exactly how I set up my laptop as a full-time penetration tester. I work on all sorts of pen tests, everything from web applications, internals and externals, cloud, AI integrations, and network segmentations, some physical stuff to the whole 9 yards. So I'm sure you will pick up a few neat tricks here and there. And Maxim, if you're watching this, please give me a Mac, please, I beg.
Please, I'm begging you!
Anyways, the first thing that most new pen testers fail at or get wrong is picking the right or wrong operating system. I use Linux, and the distribution that I had been using as my daily driver will soon reach its end of life and will no longer be supported. Why did I even start using it without checking the end of life date? Good question, that was just a rookie mistake. This meant I had to ditch my old OS and switch to a new one as the year was starting, because I don't want to have to wipe everything during the year when the end of life date rolls around. The first thing I needed to do was preserve some of the data I had on my current system at the time. So I made a checklist for which files would be getting transferred or stored or kept, I guess. These included config files, SSH keys, license keys, custom scripts, some tooling, and some random notes. I had a few reports that were still going through Tech QA, so I needed to keep those as well. One of the harder tasks was then deciding what distribution I was going to be using next. Most of my coworkers swear by Arch Linux, but honestly, setting up Arch feels like assembling furniture without instructions. Rewarding, sure, but who has the time for that?
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Certainly not me. I narrowed it down to 2 user-friendly options, Pop! OS and Ubuntu. Pop! OS looked cool, but the name sounded like it belonged to something that would be a knockoff. Ubuntu, on the other hand, offers long-term support and frequent updates. This was perfect since I'd rather not go through this headache again anytime soon. To all my Mr. Robot fans out there, no, I do not use Kali as my daily driver. If you really want to use Kali, use it in a VM if you really have to. Windows wasn't even an option here. In as much as WSL has gotten pretty good over the years, Windows is still very clunky and full of bloat. It's just very ghetto. If you're running Windows on a laptop, not a PC, I don't even know if I can trust you. Anyways, I fumbled around looking for some flash drives, burned the new OS onto the flash drive, and then started the installation process. This brings us to the next thing I set up during this process. As a penetration tester, I work with client data that's very, very confidential. If I ever lose this laptop for some odd reason when traveling, or if it just happens to get stolen by a YN and my drives aren't encrypted, I am absolutely cooked. So to avoid this potentially massive headache, we need to enable disk encryption. Disk encryption converts all the data stored on the laptop's drive into unreadable code using a cryptographic algorithm. When the laptop boots up, the user must provide a decryption key, like a password or a hardware token, to unlock and access the data. Without the correct key, the encrypted data remains scrambled and useless to whoever may be trying to access it. I chose a password over a hardware key. For my use case, I might just switch to a hardware key at some point, but password works fine for now. While on this topic of data protection though, my employer also has data retention policies that I obviously adhere to because I am the best employee, right? I can't keep information about my pen tests or reports and stuff like that on the laptop past a certain length of time, and that's just another layer of security. Next, when we're looking at the actual laptop, let's start with the vanity stuff. Wallpaper and aesthetics. For my work laptop, I don't really do much. This is because I need to take a bunch of screenshots for my reports, and having Naruto as the background of my terminal isn't the most professional thing. So I could customize some other things, but I would rather not. So just the vanilla Ubuntu is enough for me after changing the default background, at least. And then moving on to the more juicy stuff that people would want to know. Juicy but subjective items, applications, tools, and tricks. I use the default terminal emulator with Tmux because Tmux is king. I have a couple of bash aliases configured to make my life easier. For example, when I need to install something with pip, I have the alias active3, which puts me into a Python virtual environment so that I don't break anything with the original Python installation. With Tmux, I have a script that logs all my terminal input and output when I'm doing a pen test that requires use of the terminal, such as an internal Active Directory test or a cloud pen test with use of the CLI. That's very important to keep the commands in case I need to come back, take screenshots, or look up something. Now, I'm still working on perfecting that script. I borrowed it from someone on our team. Shout out to Stan. I'm still working on it and making it perfect for my needs and my use case. So if you'd like to have it once it's pristine, subscribe to the newsletter. I will not be making a video about the script. Only newsletter subscribers will get the script when I drop it. Link will be in the description below. For my code and text editor, I use Sublime Text. Sublime is by far the best at sorting and cleaning up random stuff. Instead of struggling with terminal kung fu all the time, my lazy self uses Sublime. For example, one of the things I do the most when doing external pen tests is scrape usernames from LinkedIn. These usernames need to be turned into emails, right? You could use the awk utility by doing something along the lines of cat the username file, pipe that to awk, and then f da 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 da. Or you could open the username file in Sublime, Control+A to select everything, Control+Shift+L to split into one selection per line, hit the N key and append the domain. Now that I'm looking at this, this was actually a bad example. Awk worked faster in this case. But anyways, both are great solutions, but I use Sublime all the time to sort lists, grep stuff, cut out the noise, etc, etc. I keep some of my notes in there as well. Sublime deserves all the glaze it gets. Anyways, I use Brave as my daily browser. The main reason is it blocks almost all ads on every website. It's also Chromium based, so you still get all the Chrome extensions and features we all love without selling out to Google too much. With that, I use Bitwarden as my password manager. It's cheap. It's about $10 a year, and I haven't heard of them having too many data breaches, if any, actually. It also has a self-hosting feature for those lunatics that dread the cloud. For my web application tests and anything that usually requires a proxy, I use Firefox because Foxy Proxy makes things 10 times easier. Firefox also has the multi-account container extension, which allows you to log into multiple accounts in the same browser session, so you don't need like 20 different windows. That is absolutely clutch when testing for authorization issues manually. One caveat, however, is Firefox is behind on a lot of web updates, so you might want to do some of the more intricate testing in Chrome or another Chromium-based browser. When it comes to hacking tools, picking something really just depends on the type of test I will be doing. For example, with web application tests, I use both Burp Suite and Kaido. Burp for holistic coverage, since it probably has the best crawler out there. It also has session handling rules and macros, and I really like those. I use Kaido for my manual stuff because HTTPQL is clutch. So I just go between both. For general note-taking, I use Obsidian because it allows you to store your notes locally. No syncing to the cloud unless you set that up manually yourself. For pen test notes, I use Cherry Tree for 2 reasons. I can have a password on the vault, which means there's an extra layer of security. My pen test stuff is somewhat secure, right? It's easy to crack, but using a strong password makes that infinitely harder. The second reason is I can copy and paste screenshots from Cherry Tree into any other software, unlike Obsidian, which would make you have to upload and then download the file and then upload the screenshot instead. You can't just copy and paste straight into another application, which I find pretty silly, to be honest. By the way, for screenshots, I use Flameshot. It's free, it's open source, and it works. That's it though, that's my entire setup. If you're interested in seeing how I use the setup on a daily when pen testing, check out this video somewhere on screen about my day in the life as a penetration tester. I'll also leave links to articles about hardening your Linux distribution down in the description. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.